Hi everyone, welcome to another brand new episode of Women of Community Banking podcast. Today we've got Suzanne with us. After a lot of planning, putting time on our calendar, we finally have her. Suzanne, hi, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing good, Suzanne. Not to complain. Monday afternoon. So just after the Super Bowl, I won't complain if it's good, not that bad.
Right. I
Quick introduction: who is Suzanne? Suzanne is firstly a mentor figure to me, right? She's the CEO of Tower Federal Credit Union. She's an exec coach and a consultant, right? Renowned for her, I would say, ability to build thriving businesses through the pursuit of team excellence, right? That's pretty much her focus has been for the last almost 4 decades. She's been in the ecosystem for the last 4 years, 40 years. I intentionally misspelled it as 4 years. She's been awarded multiple awards. One of the most recent one was in 2023, Women in Leadership Award by Virginia Business Magazine. That's the latest. Plus, she is across like 15 plus 14, I think 14 plus non-profit boards that she has worked so far, right? Sits still so far. So pretty interesting journey. I mean, you'll get to understand why the journey is pretty interesting, not a normal interview that I usually do with any other guests. But this is a really, really interesting interview. We're going to talk about a bunch of things from her career to her focus in child cancer awareness, what she's done. She's done phenomenal pieces of work. So let's start the interview. Suzanne, I'm sure I have missed 1,000 things out there. So if you want, you can just add a couple of them if you think so.
Yeah, you picked up the highlights there. I started in the credit union industry right out of college, and then did some stints in banking, and then back now in the credit union industry. So it's been an interesting journey, as you would say, and met a lot of great people, and had an opportunity to impact a lot of people through my volunteerism in nonprofit world. So especially in the cancer side of things, childhood cancer.
Sounds good, Suzanne. So let's start the show, right? Starting with, so I'll ask you a question. You've done so many things earlier. You worked for banks, credit unions, focused on a bunch of other things. So what keeps you going? I mean, it's you only have 24 hours a day, right? So still.
Yeah, I mean, what keeps me going is impact. Being able to impact other people, being able to see the value of my work. So yeah, I mean, it's a people business. Whether it's whenever you're in the financial services industry or whether you're volunteering, to me, it's all about the people, right? And watching other people grow and develop, and that's what keeps me going. Really, is see that journey with other people.
Oh yes, I mean that's a very valuable answer, right? So, in terms of your journey now, what are illustrious 40, almost 40 years, 4 decades, right? For the lack of better words, I mean it sounds better than 40 years. So, what has been your journey so far for the last 4 decades?
Well, the journey, has been unique because I'm a woman, an executive woman, right? And I was an executive in my late 20s. So I've spent almost 3 decades in the C suite. And, I've watched that change, that evolve where I used to be the only woman to many times now, multiple women are part of the leadership team. So that's been really great to see and experience through my career. And it's taken a lot of perseverance, I would say. When it used to not be as welcoming as it is today. So that's been a great thing to experience and be a part of.
I mean, obviously, I mean, almost 3 decades of exec experience is something people would cherish for. I'm thinking, I mean, I'm sure a lot of listeners over here are taking note that they might want to reach out to you for mentorship because no one can get a better mentor who's been in exec for 3 decades, definitely, right? So that's very valuable, right? So now talking about your current role, Suzanne, you just moved. I mean, you're still new at Tower. I mean, you joined Towers some time back. So what is your current role as a CEO of Tower?
So at Tower, I oversee 5 areas. I oversee debit card operations, which is pretty large at Tower. I also see fraud and BSA AML, which of course has been a very unfortunately growing area with fraud. I oversee facilities and administrative services, deposit operations, which is pretty large, and I'm also in charge of business continuity. So keeps me going, keeps me
That's
busy.
a lot, right? I mean, at one hand you have the lifeblood, that's deposits, and you protect people from frauding you, right? So defrauding you. So that's pretty much a very wide range of tools. So not that we know what you do, right? But I wanted to focus on things outside work which you're very passionate about, and where I personally I'm really proud of what she has done, right? So you've been really passionate about childhood cancer, right? Awareness. So would you like to share more about what you've done, across the years?
Yeah, so when my son was 2, he was diagnosed with Ewing sarcoma, and it paralyzed him from the waist down. So that was a very huge impact to my life. And because of that experience, I decided afterwards to start a foundation focused on pediatric proton. My son was one of the lucky recipients of proton therapy, which is a more modern version of radiotherapy. It's very precise, and I found some other very dedicated pediatric radi-oncologists, starting with Mayo Clinic, and expanded the board to include radiation oncologists, pediatric radiation oncologists at different University of Florida, um, MD Anderson. And so we formed a board, and we really used our platform to advocate for pediatric patients receiving the proton therapy. And the reason is because proton therapy is very precise. Actually, I have a mold I can kind of show you of my son's tumor. And you can see just by the different, I don't know if you can see it on the screen
Yeah,
very
yeah.
well, but within 1/100th of a millimeter. And this is important to children because they're still growing and developing. So you don't want to radiate anything that you shouldn't radiate, because radiation itself can cause damage to healthy tissue. So we were advocates. We went to the Senate. We talked to legislators there. We also started a survey annually where we queried the different hospitals that were using proton therapy, so we could share all the diseases that the proton therapy could treat, which was over 43 different type of childhood cancers. And so we were very lucky to get published in the International Journal of Particle Therapy, which seems kind of odd, right, for a mom from Virginia Beach. But that was mostly in part due to the expertise we had on the board of directors. So we ran that very successfully for over 11 years. And in 2019, we decided to roll it down, mostly because in the beginning, the United States only had 6 proton therapy centers, and now there's over 33 centers
Wow.
throughout the country. So much more readily available, including St. Jude, which of course is one of the premier hospitals for children with cancer. So we felt like we did our job, and really helped a lot of centers also get their certificate of need to prove that they needed these services within their communities. So it was very fulfilling, and I really feel like we saved lives. So that was impactful.
That's what makes difference, Suzanne, right? I mean, apart from your daily life, I mean, you had this experience with your kid. I mean, it's easy to go and forget about things when your kid is good, is okay, right? But continuing the mission to help others, to make this actually something tangible from 3 to 30 plus, don't you think it's a phenomenal achievement? I mean, if I would have done it myself, I would have been very, very proud of this, right? So what do you think about it? I mean, are you proud of what you've done?
I am. I mean, my son, I will mention, he's 19 now, and he's very healthy. He did survive, was a lucky childhood cancer survivor. But yeah, absolutely proud of what we've done. Just, there was a lot of emotion around it. As I say, there's a saying in called bodhicitta, which is open heart. But when you're going through something like that, when your life's kind of devastated and you see the kindness in others, it makes you want to give back, right? And so from that experience, I just thought, with my big mouth and my passion for helping people, there has to be a way to give back. And it was a great experience. It really was. Just getting to know so many medical people. South Korea invited me over. I was able to speak to over 330 doctors and nurses there about proton therapy for children. and just a lot of different opportunities that were afforded to me because I spoke from a parental voice as opposed to a medical voice, right? And that was very emotional, and I think really inspired a lot of those healthcare providers. To what they were doing was really meaningful and helpful, and so I had a lot of people, make that point to me over the years.
Absolutely, Suzanne. I think that's the reason, possibly, you have led your way working with credit unions, because credit unions are very similar, right? I mean, you actually work for helping people, not for making money, for the lack of better words, right? So it's so well aligned to your nature, to your current works. I think that's the reason you're so successful, right? So a follow-up question, from that is, obviously you had a long-standing career, right, out of which you spent considerable years building this, helping people fight childhood cancer, right? So that has taught you a lot, be it, personally as well as at work might be, right? It has taught you to balance things, to go ahead and do things for someone else without expecting anything. So do you want to share any of your learnings, right, from your long-standing both personal life and career, for young female professionals, right, who aspire to become someone like you?
Well, my first piece of wisdom would just be to be authentic. I've
Mhm.
always been myself. I don't try to be anybody else. I figure I was created for a reason. And the other thing I would just say is to persevere. I think we all hit challenges in life, and just being able to be that person that doesn't, let it get you down for long. That just come right back at it. Um, so those things. I also think hard work. I mean, nothing was ever handed to me. I've worked very, very hard my whole career. And I had my very first mentor said, you know, a lot of people might be smarter than you, but you can always outwork them. You can always give that, that I came from a blue collar family in Western Pennsylvania where my dad was a steel worker. And, just knowing that hard work, there's no easy way around it. It is hard work. Getting your education, continuing to educate yourself too would be another thing I would say. I always am learning something new. I never go into a room and think I'm the smartest one. I always think, what can I learn from somebody else? They say two ears and one mouth. So I like to start with listening, right? And figuring out how I can partner with somebody to create the best outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's something which everyone needs to hear very clearly and loud. That exactly the same thing, right? I mean, there's no substitute to hard work. Someone can be smarter than you, can be, because everyone has different gray matter, IQ, EQ, right? But hard work is something, if you do not give up, you're always there. Absolutely, Suzanne. This is something which everyone should think about. And I think it's a generic notion that everyone should have. Absolutely. Now, coming to challenges. Now, obviously, your life is like full of challenges. Let me put it this way: it's full of challenges. With a kid of 2 year old being diagnosed with cancer, you fighting the way out, plus managing your work, always an exec level role, it's been challenging. Plus,
Mhm.
obviously, I mean, let's put it this way, right? I mean, 40 years back, there were not so many women out there in the FinServe ecosystem, specifically not.
Right.
So, do you want to talk about? I mean, this podcast is again about celebrating success as well as challenges, right? We never dumb down on challenges. We are very vocal about challenges and how do we overcome them. Do you talk about any challenge, specifically being a female leader, one, and second, a working mom? Because I mean, I feel the same thing. My mom was working, so it was not easy for her. So I want to ask you from both the lenses, from a female leader as well as a working mom.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that I try to teach in my executive coaching, it's about work-life harmony as opposed to work-life balance, right? There's always
Mhm.
times where being a mother is going to come first, or where your work is going to come first. But I think the real key is getting joy from both of them, right? When I'm home, I'm happy. When I'm at work, I'm happy. And part of that is being really present, right? Not trying to do multiple tasks when I have time with my son, right? Or multiple tasks when I'm at work, trying to be a mom. So really, creating some healthy boundaries, I think, is very important in being successful with challenges. Again, there are some times where you just have to be there, you have to work, and just being okay with that, right? And saying, I'll make that time up later when I'm with, my son, even if it's an hour or 2 hours, I'm going to be completely with him and not think about work, right? So separating your mind at the appropriate times, I think, and focusing on what's important at that time.
So what you're telling me is, again, live in the present, right? Live in the present and do whatever you can. Otherwise, we'll be overwhelmed both at work and at life. So that's what your key takeaways. Okay, makes sense. Uh, Now, Susan, I know we wanted to keep it short and quick. So I want to ask one, I would say, parting question right now. Uh, that would be across your commitment towards things outside work, right? Proton therapy is one thing which you're really passionate about. You did, but obviously you had involvement with, like, I think 14 or 15 different non-profit boards, right, throughout your career. Now that's a lot of work. I mean, working for 14 non-profits is not easy. It's a lot of work. You talk about, what did you do across those non-profits and how did that shape you to become a better human altogether?
Well, I always try to find things that I have passion for, whether it be in the credit union. I've belonged to different organizations like the Better Business Bureau and some other business related nonprofits, right? But trying to find things that you're really passionate about. It was never just a check mark, right? Do this. It was more about how can I impact. And again, I've been a part of organizations where I realize I really can't impact, and then I'll leave, right, and do something else. But I do think it's important for your listeners to think about what they're passionate about, because your life is short, right? And you want to make sure that whatever you're committing yourself to gives you, some kind of feedback, some sort of enjoyment, as well as, are you helping that organization? So all the ones I've been part of have been great organizations, right, and have served their purpose, and I've enjoyed being part of them. So
Sounds good. So that has really impacted your life and career, absolutely. Now, Suzanne, I'll go to. I mean, again, sorry, it was not a parting question. One couple of last questions I want to ask you. Now, if put the hat of a COO of a decent sized credit union, right? Of a large credit union, for the lack of better words. My question has always been, when I talk to people, right? When I talk to critics, people talk about the lot of consolidation that's happening, that will happen going forward. It's not easy for smaller credit unions, but I am very bullish about the movement. Right? There's a reason because of which I left the entire world and came to the movement, because I believe in it every single day. I wake up in the morning. So where do you think is 2025 poised to? I mean, how should 2025 look like for the credit union movement altogether? I mean, what are your 2 cents?
my 2 cents are, we have to remember, again, it's really back to that word impact. There's so many good things that we do. We serve our communities in so many ways, with volunteer hours, with financial donations. At Tower in particular, we have a foundation, Tower Cares Foundation, where we give back. We've given back millions of dollars to childhood cancer, as well as other childhood diseases. And I think as an industry, we have to remember that. We have to remember that we are good people serving people of modest means. And it's important to keep track of that and remember that, because I've worked on the other side where you're really working for Wall Street. You're working for stockholders. You're working for rich people that just want to get richer, as opposed to remembering the impact that financial services can have on people's lives. That first car loan, that first mortgage loan, giving them a chance that the larger institutions will not do. And so I think we have to kind of remember our roots, right? And remember why we were formed. And I sometimes remembering how to tell that story to legislators, so they keep our organizations intact. They keep our regulations, minimal, so that we can serve our communities.
No, absolutely. I think this is very well taken and received, Suzanne. And again, thank you for taking your time out to chat with us. This conversation can just go into hours, right? Because there's so much of content that's there. I think this is more of a episode one, I would say. Episode two would be more deep diving on your life, on your career. We want to maybe, put something specifically towards that, right? But again, thank you, Suzanne, for your time today. We really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.
Thank you. Have